Okay, good evening, folks. Glad everybody could be here. If you were looking for a place to be cool instead of that 97 degrees, that might be why you just came in out of the heat, but that's okay. We're glad you're here anyway. So we got a lot of things to go over tonight. We got the chief coming tonight, and so we're going to get started. So I'm Lewis Allen, the chair of the Mission Grove Neighborhood Alliance. Any of you never been to one of our meetings before? First timers? Okay, stand and introduce yourself. No, I'm just kidding. I wouldn't put you through that. So here, this is the area that we basically cover, Mission Grove plus all the surrounding communities and part of the county, Woodcrest and so on. Anybody is invited to come that wants to come within the city or the county to our group. We invite any and all. Clarissa Cervantes from Ward 2 has been the one that's been kind enough to get us this facility for the year. So we want to thank her for that. If you're not getting any emails, make sure you sign in with the handsome gentleman and lady in the back to print your name so you can get on our email list to get our notifications. $12 per year to become a voting member. Our legal fund is over $6,000, even though we have settled Station 29, Engine 54, Squad 22. So, yeah. So even though the Kmart thing we'll talk about later, we've settled that and there's actually been a big change in the Kmart thing. We still have other legal things that we're potentially pursuing, like the video thing that the city decided to eliminate for public speaking. We think that's a violation of our First Amendment to be able to use that, and potentially a case for the signs that were stolen for the company that did that and the individual. So that person has been arrested and they're going to court. They had first court hearing and the second court hearing will be September 8th for the individual that stole our signs after all the investigation work that we do. Meeting rules: respect one another, raise your hand to speak, email any questions afterwards if there's anything that we want to cover. This is the Athens notification tag. How many of you are covered by Athens trash pickup? They've been going around basically opening your trash can and seeing whether you put the right stuff in the right barrel and issuing out some of these tags. We've known of a couple of them, so if you happen to get one, let us know.
I don't know, can you hear me? Yeah. Also, the city just published the fines. If you overpack your trash can, it's $45. If you want your trash can replaced more than once every 10 years, it's $105.
10 years?
Yeah. So I just got that. It'll be up on the website probably tomorrow. So if you get a warning, they're supposed to give you 1 or 2 warnings, but then they're going to start $45 fines.
I want to see everybody out there armor-alling those trash cans so that they will last the 10 years. 10 years for a trash can. Learn something new every day. Here's the fire map that came out a few weeks ago, redoing the fire maps. I know a number of people that were paying $1,200 a year for their fire insurance, and now they're up to $3,400 a year. The green arrow is about where we are right now, just on the edge of the red area. You can see that parts of Mission Grove in here are kind of in the middle. We're in the no man's land, so the fire will come in both directions for us, and then we'll be wiped out, even though we're not in the fire zone. So I put that up for everybody to know. Special updates tonight. We got fire, police, are now. Brian's going to be the water boy, give us a presentation on water, and then we'll have our general updates and then the police chief. So first up, we have fire, and we have Scott Richmond here tonight to give us a quick update on the fire and what the recent call was that he just received.
Well, good evening. I'll just take a few minutes. I've got some comments, some general comments. I'll talk about, I'm sure you're interested about the fire that happened here just a few days ago. Is that correct? I can talk about that and any other fire in the area or in the city that might have affected you. But I'll talk, I've got a few talking points I'll get through. If you were here last time, I'm sorry for being repetitive, but it's a much larger crowd this time. So I'll just kind of capture everybody right now and kind of go through my bullet points and then answer any questions that you might have. First of all, as you just saw, the state of California is set to release or did release their fire hazard severity zone maps. And what that did is it captured just like all areas around California in municipalities and basically re-looked at the land and expanded it to high and very high. I live just over here. My area is probably in that zone. And so I'm affected as well. And what that means as far as the city is it just redefines the responsibility of Riverside to mitigate and do fuels mitigation to some of these areas that aren't owned by a private person. Just open areas that really aren't covered. And so they are coming up with a plan. Our fire prevention department is heading that up. And they'll basically mitigate and monitor these areas that abut somebody's private residence or businesses in the area. It's a big haul, and it's affecting every community here in the state of California. As you saw, we've added hundreds and hundreds of acres here in the city, and obviously there's an impact to me and you in this regards. The good side is that the city is deploying resources in order to mitigate and do fuels mitigation. And some of these like wildland urban interface areas that abut houses, abut infrastructure, where sometimes it gets unnoticed. There's a big push to mitigate and control those areas, which just makes us a little more safe. Just a brief little mention here on accreditation ISO. I don't know if you're aware, but your fire department is ISO accredited. It's a class 1 city, which means that your fire department, thanks. Yeah, it's no easy task. The ISO, the Insurance Services Office, they evaluate your fire department infrastructure, but it's not just the fire department. They evaluate the city water department and all different avenues that kind of affect fire safety in the community. And what that means to a lot of businesses, it usually generates or ends up meaning a reduced insurance cost to the consumer. It has to do with personnel, the apparatus we have, the water, the services, how many calls we have, can we respond to those calls in a timely manner, our response times, your workforce, all those kind of things, kind of the services that we provide. And we're class 1, which is the highest level that you can achieve in ISO. We're also an internationally accredited fire department, and there's only a handful of internationally accredited fire departments in the state of California. And they're increasingly rare because it's very difficult to achieve. It's a multi-year process of self-evaluation, and it's really a self-evaluation process through a company, a third party who comes in and looks at your fire department. They evaluate all different facets of the organization, including your administration, your operations, all the different departments within your operation, and really kind of ask the hard questions like, how are you doing? Are you meeting the need? Is there room for improvement? And it's a process of total quality improvement or continuous and quality improvement. And we are accredited and working on tasks to be accredited here in the next 2 years again. So it's a cyclical thing of meeting requirements and then being accredited and then applying for accreditation and then going through an evaluation process over and over again. The next point is in the fireworks. We just have 4th of July. And last time I talked about kind of the buildup towards 4th of July. This year, every year, the city, especially the fire department, we take 4th of July serious. And they always send out investigators from both police side and fire side in order to mitigate fireworks, because it is such a dangerous. And I don't know if you know this, like Southern California, there's 3 areas in the world that have the worst fire danger. There's one in a small area in France. There's one, I believe, in Australia, and then Southern California. And not that other areas of the country have fire danger. They all do. We live in California. We see that every day. But the nature of our area in Southern California with the topography, the temperature, the high winds during, Santa Ana winds, all those things are in alignment, which create an extreme fire danger. So fireworks are a big part of what we do. And this year, our police partners, they like huge pull with drones, and they'll probably talk about that, but just I feel like it was a really successful operation. Our arson investigators, they work several days, 24 hours a day, 24-hour day leading up to the 4th of July. And so just a successful operation. Next point here is our master plan. Just want to highlight what the fire department is doing for you. Like I said, we go through an accreditation or an internationally accredited process, but what that does not translate well to is it's a good self-evaluation process to see where we are now and where we need to go in the next couple of years, but it doesn't translate well to a 20-year plan. And it doesn't really translate into evaluating infrastructure like stations and personnel as it relates to maybe other fire departments and where we should be now as far as units and needs. Our chief McKinster, he's put in an FRP for a master plan. A company called Trident has come in. They have all the data that they need, but right now they're in the process of evaluating the fire department. And then from that data, they'll come up with a 5, 10, 15-year plan in order to submit to city council. So just a long-term outlook for the fire department and meeting the needs of the city. If anybody has lived here a long time, we know that over the last 2 decades, 3 decades, we've grown considerably. The population has increased, the infrastructure has increased, and it's a challenge for everyone who serves in Riverside to meet the needs of the community, but this master plan is a part of that process. Right now, we are almost fully staffed. We have a couple injuries, long-term injuries, but COVID was hard, and it was hard for every fire department, but I'm happy to say that we're almost fully staffed after so many years. Now, just to address the Dollar Tree incident, I've got some brief stats here. If you don't know, it was right behind the Dollar Tree between Kohl's and a small commercial strip mall. There's a little small arroyo that's in between these gates, in between all those buildings. There was a fire in there, and it took off. It was about 1.8 acres. That was on the 26th. And the fire itself was mitigated by a few chief officers, about 39 firefighters. It took about 2 hours to control the fire, and about 3 hours in total. The fire is under investigation. It was a little unique in that, it's so early in the season and fuel moisture was relatively high right now. And it was almost totally burned through trees and everything, which is unique. However, just being in close proximity to Kohl's, the Dollar Tree, and that commercial strip mall, it just posed a unique challenge. We were able to get a lot of resources there quick, and I'm happy to say there was no damage to any of the businesses. It's really just a fire that kind of went through that little arroyo. And that's about it. That's the only recent fire that we've had in the area. As you know, Station 11 services Orange Crest, Woodcrest, and they also are mutually partnered with CAL FIRE and the JPA. So they run a lot of your medical aids and fires in the area, and they're your fire station. As far as my comments and my points, and does anybody have any questions about the Dollar Tree fire or anything I've talked about today as far as my points? Yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm. No, I'm not for certain, but through that area, this is a good guess because I got that same arroyo back behind my house, and that is a It's an underground river, supposedly. I've been told that comes from the Colorado River, and it pops up, and then it goes, wanders through Woodcrest, and you have these small, it's actually maintained by the water department, and they have these small sections, you know, that they maintain. You see one there, and then if you hop across the road right behind Starbucks, that's the water department, and then it skips down and it goes back behind some houses in Woodcrest. It keeps going down. That's all the water department. So they maintain that. And every now and again, they come in with a crew and they do fuels mitigation. But it wasn't too out of control. I go there pretty frequently or around there, and the fuels wasn't out of control. It just kind of unique. I'm not sure why. I've had a bunch of fires in the area. Even like green bamboo and stuff that normally doesn't burn is just all burning right now. Yeah. So does that answer your question? Box Springs. Oh, in Marina Valley. Oh, you're talking about Harupa. Okay, that was my fire. Oh, Sycamore Canyon. Oh, that fire. That was not in the city. That was in the county. So Station 13, they did not go. That was a fire in a bunch of backyards that ended up back behind like 3 houses. And there was a bunch of outbuildings that just kind of skipped from one property to another property. Cal Fire, that's their area of responsibility. They were really quick, put that out pretty fast. So no real damage to the houses. I think just the outbuildings in the back. Yep. Yes, ma'am. The cactus fire. Oh, yeah, that another Cal Fire incident. We had Engine 11, I believe they went on that, as well as another unit, probably Truck 13. That was another small fire. Actually, no, I'm sorry. I'm mistaking a couple other fires. We've had so many lately. We actually sent Brush 12 and I think Engine 11. They call when fires get a little bit larger, and that one was back behind, obviously off a cactus, back behind one of those commercial buildings up on a hill. And the state is obviously a very large resource. They're a very large resource to us, and they have plenty of resources. They were able to knock that out in about 2 to 3 hours. But as far as city resources, we had like 2 or 3 units that were assigned. Does that answer your question? Certainly. Yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. We did have a couple of arson investigators who were involved in the PSET team for a little while. That's kind of like the homeless. They work with that and doing outreach. They've been pulled off of that just out of necessity so they can focus on arson, cases and fire investigation. But it's an ongoing thing. It's such a large problem. You bring up a good point. I like how much of an impact it is. Just in the last couple of days, there's probably fires that are related to that scenario. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, definitely for everyone. Any more questions?
Thank the fire
All
department.
right. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
I can't believe that Hawaii wasn't on that list of places that burn. Not only have they had fires in Maui, but, they have an island there with a volcano. It's like constantly on fire. Okay, we now have Lieutenant Merrill from the police department is going to come up and update us on what's going on.
Good afternoon, everyone. Do you have my little PowerPoint? Perfect. So I just have a very quick update for you guys, and then I'll take any questions that you guys may have for me. So I think I've talked to most of you guys, but for those of you that don't know me, I am Brandy Merrill. I'm a lieutenant for the police department. I am your area commander for the East NPC. I don't know who this is going to apply to in the room, but there was a Senate Bill 602 that was passed. It deals with trespass authorizations. Does anybody know what a trespass authorization is? Lovely. So, huh? No. Yes. So trespass authorizations are for private property, typically businesses or shopping centers, where if there is somebody trespassing on the property, we do not need the owner or an agent for the owner present. We can make that arrest for the trespass without their presence. In order to get that going, we need the owner to fill out a form saying, I authorize Riverside PD to enforce trespassing. Senate Bill 2 changes that in the sense that that form that gets submitted to us needs to be notarized. So every form or every file, every trespass that we have on file is no longer valid. It will need to be redone, and moving forward, we would need those forms notarized. So we, the PD and the city, are hosting these workshops for property owners and business owners to come in and get that notarization form done and filed with us so that we can go out and continue to enforce the 602s. This will be done free of charge. So if you guys are able to make it to these workshops, we will get that handled for you, get it notarized, get it processed, get it on file, so that when somebody calls and provides that address, it will automatically pop up with dispatch that says, hey, you guys have a trespass authorization on file, and we can make that arrest, okay? These are the ones that we have pending right now. There may be some scheduled for future dates, but as of right now, these are the 3 that we have. Next week, we'll be at our Magnolia Street Police Station, and then the following week, we'll be at the Chamber downtown. Yes, ma'am. 1 year from the date that it is filed. So it will be a yearly update as long as you guys, as property owners, want to continue that. It will need to be renewed every year. Yes. Yes. What was that? Yes. Any other questions pertaining to 602s? Yes, sir. It can be for any private property where we don't have the authority to go in and essentially enforce the 602 without permission. Typically, it's for shopping centers, business complexes, vacant land, vacant properties where there's no owner or occupants present. Yes. Yes, and we have several of those throughout the city. Yes. Yes. Yes, ma'am. You would have to reach, I'm assuming you're referring to RSO, you would have to reach out to that agency because they will enforce their side. This is strictly for the city of Riverside and property located within the city of Riverside. I know RSO is, I would imagine, it's a statewide Senate bill that it's going to affect everybody in the state, so I would imagine they are enforcing it. If not, you can certainly reach out to that specific PD or sheriff and confirm. Yes.
Attend the meeting, just don't tell them where you live. It's a different form. It's a different form.
I like where your head's at, though. Any other? Yes, ma'am.
It's gone.
It's invalid. It will need to be redone. We are trying to reach out to all the ones that had previously submitted it and trying to get them, 1, notified, 2, to get them down to get it redone. Yes.
Are you the Creekside Arroyo?
Yes.
Are you Creekside?
Yeah.
Okay, so like she said, the one that you just sent to me, they're no longer valid. We had 1,500 of them that got wiped out. So we have to start over with this notary. And like we said, we're going to be doing this free of charge unless a business has access to their own notary. A lot of property management companies might have an in-house notary, But if you don't, we are going to be providing that service for free. We will get you the new form. We're working on it, tweaking with the language, and then you'll be contacted so that way you can get updated.
Yeah, I just wanted to pass it on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I know the one guy is still.
Yeah.
What was that?
602?
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I said, it may not apply to you guys, but if you guys know property owners, business owners that it could affect, please let them know. It is unfortunate, but we'll get through it and we'll get everybody notarized and get it back up and running.
Yeah, we do that anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Yes. 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 Any other questions about this or anything I can answer? Going, gone. All right, cool. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Lashon. I have a couple announcements. I first wanted to let you know that we are recruiting for our youth court, which is geared towards the teens. And if you're not familiar, what it is it gives the teens a chance to go through a court case. If they're real cases of kids who get into trouble or get incited or arrested for shoplifting, kids can become jurors, they become bailiffs, they can be attorneys, and essentially they are sentencing their peers. So it's a good something for kids to have for college. And then also we are recruiting for our next Citizens Academy. And if you didn't know, this is where Brian and Lewis started. They attended this. It's a 10-week, once a week, every Thursday. You're going to learn something different about our department. There are a couple flyers here on the back, the table here in the front. The QR code is here for registration. You do have to live or work in the city of Riverside to attend our Citizens Academy. And that's all I have. Thank you.
The Citizens Academy is a great program. You'll learn a lot. Okay. Okay. So next we have the R Now group. They're set up over here and they're going to explain to us what they're doing and what they'd like you to do tonight. So here's Michael.
Thank you, Louis. Mike McCarthy, I'm the vice chair of R Now. My lovely assistant, Jerry, who's also a board member of R Now, will be demonstrating our board. First, I want to give you a tiny bit of an update because I haven't talked to you in a couple months. On May 12th, the March Joint Powers Authority and their commission voted to not entitle the West Campus with warehouses. So that was a huge victory. I know a lot of you were there and spoke up, and so thank you everybody who attended and just any support letter, all that was extremely important. Butts and seats make politicians make better decisions. And so we had those butts in the seats. We had 500 people in that building, 300 in the room, and then we had 150 in the lobby, and we had people waiting outside. So it was a great, great meeting. That being said, the Joint Powers Authority then transferred the land to the county. The county accepted land use authority on the 25th of June, and now the county owns that land. They are the land use, I shouldn't say that. The county is now the land use authority for the Joint Powers Authority. And they now get to decide what happens with that land. And so we have had enough of being reactive and trying to stop things. We want to be proactive and say what we want. And so we're going on a planning tour of groups and neighborhood associations and everything else. And so back in the corner, we have our board, which will have some ideas that we've put forward. We've submitted these in writing to the JPA. They apparently didn't read them because of some comments from the dais by at least one of the commissioners. But we have green dots and we have red dots. Green means go, you like it. Red means stop, you don't want that. So we just want to have a sense of what the community wants. People from Mission Grove Neighborhood Alliance obviously should care because it's right adjacent to their land. So go to the back. We have both 3 ideas that are sort of more fully fleshed out and then just land use categories on a sheet on the bottom. So Jerry, can you hold up the sheet on the bottom so people can see what we're talking about there? So those are all things that we've already gone and started collecting dots, but we'd like to collect more. You can have 2 dots. You can have 2 green, 2 red, or 1 of each, or you can not vote at all. And whenever you want to go up there, I hope is okay, because we probably don't want to wait until the end. So if you just want to meander over there and put some dots or make your opinion known, please do. And then we're going to go and get these same dots, different colors though, for the chambers of commerce, for the labor council, and for other groups that also are stakeholders in this process, because we want to be able to show our decision makers, specifically Supervisor Medina, who is now the District 1 supervisor, who will be sort of deferred to in this process, what the community prefers and what other stakeholders prefer, so they can sort of make an informed decision about what's acceptable and not acceptable that might work in case of development. Now, it would be great if we could have a Balboa Park or something like that. And I just want to remind you, there's 815 acres back there, 350 of it are developable. Disneyland is 85 acres. Okay, there's a lot you can do with 350 developable acres. That's a lot of land. It's an important project, and it's something that it's really going to affect our neighborhood for generations. So anything that we can get back there that's better and acceptable to the community, we just want to put that on paper. Please make your voices known. Thank you so much for your time. And if you have any questions, we'll be hanging out in the court. Take care.
Thank you, Michael. Personally, I like the VA Village idea for veterans to be able to come and do rehab, have full-time housing, part-time housing, homeless, all kinds of benefits. Since we have the cemetery here, that's the only official cemetery for Medal of Honor winners outside of Arlington National Cemetery. I just think anybody that would be against that would somehow have a problem. So the VA Village to me sounds like the best thing. So, okay. What's that? Potentially, yeah. Okay, now Brian's going to give us a quick update on how the Western Mutual Water District customer portal works, since you all have new meters, most of you.
Okay, so those of us that were here at the last few meetings heard the water district, and they talked about this app. So I signed up just to see what it does. You go to the main page, and you'll click on customers. Go ahead and next switch. How do you move it? That'll get you to this screen. You'll go down to My Water Portal there. You click on that. Next screen. Where's Vanna White when you need her? Next screen. Okay. You'll sign in. They'll ask you for your account number, which is on the top of your bill. I'm going to put this link up on the webpage, but I'm also going to put Gregory's phone number. He's the Water District Customer Service Rep, because I tried for a half hour and couldn't get, I had my account number, typed it in, still wouldn't work. Called him, he got it to work immediately. So I'll put his phone number up there so you can call him. So this is what you're going to get. This is just a quick, this is my bill, shows just for the week, the beginning of the week. Sunday we had, what's that, almost 800 gallons, 900 gallons. And then it comes down to our average, which is about 400 gallons. We have 3 people living in our house. I got 28 fruit trees and I got a pool. Go to the next one. So this is the daily one, because it'll give you year, month, week, and day. So this is the daily one. You can see midnight, no one flushed the toilet. We're all good. 6 a.m., the sprinklers went off, and we were using almost 200 gallons an hour on the sprinklers. I didn't know I used that much, so now I'm starting to cut down by a minute or two to see where we go. And then after the sprinklers are over, we go back to normal, and then about 3, 4 o'clock, we start cooking and getting water and doing stuff. Go to the next one. Oh, okay. Well, he cut out one of my slides, but on the monthly chart, you can see these huge spikes, and I couldn't figure out what they were. And so then I went back and looked, and those were the days that I had to refill the pool up because of the vibe. And I assumed, I turned the water on, and it was 45 minutes. it was almost 1,000 gallons to fill up the pool. So again, it's interesting because it shows you where you're spending water. The other thing is there's a way to set an alarm on it. So you can say, well, I know at 6 a.m. my sprinklers go off, so I don't want to hear it. But at 10 a.m., if all of a sudden I'm using 200 gallons, I want to know it. And it'll send you an email or a text message that you're using too much water, or if at midnight you're using water. So it's a great little app. Yep. It's not much better, but again, I'll put this up on the website. And then one of the features we are going to add to the meetings is try to introduce a new app like the 311 app. The fire department has a great app, the Pulse Point, where it'll give you all the fire calls. The police have Atlas. That's a good app. So there's a lot of apps out there that you should have and you can use. Any other questions on the water? Not that I'm a water guy, but. All right.
Okay, now Jessica Qattawi is going to come up, who's the chair of the Riverside Neighborhood Partnership, and go over a few events that are getting ready to happen.
Thank you, Louis, and thank you, everybody, for being here this evening. This is a big crowd. I think everybody's here to see the police chief, right? He's outside ready to speak. So first, I'd like to start off with telling you guys about the R&P Lunch Fundraiser. If you're not familiar with R&P, it's Riverside Neighborhood Partnership. We meet once a month. I'm the president. I recently was voted to be the president, and we're putting on our first fundraiser in a long time. And so Antone's Italian Eatery, I'm sure you guys are familiar with that place. They have new owners in the past couple years. So they're going to be donating 15% of all their net sales on Saturday. So if you can go down there and help us. The reason why we're doing that is because of the last flyer. Have you heard of the Good Neighbor Awards? You have? Okay, wonderful. So R&P has been putting on this award ceremony for the past 12 years. So we're going to be having our 13th annual. What's so amazing about this event, it gives us an opportunity to really recognize those making a difference in our community. So if you know anybody that really has stood out and done some really great things for our community, I mean, I personally would like to nominate Louis and Brian because, yes, let's give them a round of applause. I want you guys to know these guys work so hard for our city, for our community, and they really do deserve it. And then also, so yes, if you see right at the bottom, there's a QR code. Actually, you guys all have the flyers, so you can actually just scan the QR code and you can nominate whoever you like. And another event that we're putting on is a back to school backpack giveaway. That's going to be on August 9th at this park. Actually, we're going to hold it here. And R&P is partnering with SoCal Youth United. And we're going to be we're going to try to give out about 100 backpacks. But if anybody out there wants to donate any extra items to throw into the backpacks, we would greatly appreciate that. Or if you want to donate money for us to be able to get more backpacks, we're getting a really great deal. They're only $5 a backpack. And we're trying to focus on children or youth 13 and older, because we know the elementary kids, they get all the backpacks, right? So we're going to try to give them out to the 13 and older youth. And yeah, and we'll have free lunch and drinks and hot dogs and all that good stuff. So hopefully if you can let your friends and family know, we appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, a couple other little announcements and then we'll get to the chief. So City Hall Insider, engage, speak, and participate. The city clerk is going to hold a training session on the 22nd in the City Hall chambers on how the City Hall works, how the meetings work, how they come about, everything, the agenda and the whole thing, how to speak. You'll be able to see behind the scenes of how things work in the city hall. So you won't be so afraid to come and speak before the city hall or submit comments and so on. So that'll be Tuesday, July 22nd at 5:30. We'll have something posted on our website where you can sign up for that. It should be a very fun thing to learn what's going on. We'll do probably a mock little city hall meeting where we have people playing city council and mayor and so on to kind of teach people as to how things work in City Hall, because a lot of people go down and they don't know how things work. They're afraid to speak, and so we're hoping to take care of that so more people can come down and speak when the opportunity is there. So look for that and go to the website, and we'll have something coming out for that piece. So now, the last thing I'm going to talk about is the Kmart project. Yes? Is she getting flack from doing? I don't know. She was very helpful with us with the videos and reminded the mayor and so on that they were within 3 minutes. And then they came out with that resolution on May 6th that was basically hidden in the consent calendar to eliminate any video or audio as part of your 3-minute speaking engagement to the city. So, and we were the only ones doing that. So, and that was it was so carefully hidden. From what we can tell, there was at least 2 of the city didn't realize that's what they were voting on, because it didn't go to committee. The description did not describe that's what it was. When you open the staff report, it didn't clearly describe what it was. You had to go to page 26 of the new resolution to see that it said no more audio and video. Yeah, so, but we're going to address that in our own time. So back to the Kmart thing. You all know the Kmart started out the project 347 units that was submitted. And we filed a suit, a CEQA against the CEQA. Remember, everyone wrote in all the comments and we negotiated that. Catherine Barrett Fisher's here tonight. She helped with that a lot. We negotiated down to 250 units and 3-story building and so on. And we negotiated that and won that, basically got that for the group. So the project would be less. But the real news is they've submitted new project plans for 590. No, I'm just kidding. I just want to see if you're paying attention. So here's the new project plan proposal. 180 units, 3 stories. There basically appears to be townhouse configuration with garages underneath. 400 parking spaces for the 180 units, which is much more than normal. 1,300 to 1,600 square foot, 2, 3, and 4 bedroom, no studios and no 1 bedrooms. So this is all we have. We got this because part of our agreement is we get copies of any plans or changes to the project. So this is all we have. We've tried to go to the planning department to get some more, but we understand this is coming before the planning commission in July. So we'll find out more about this, but instead of being 35 units per acre, it's being cut almost in half from what it originally was. It's still on the same footprint that it was before, the 7.5 acres, with the remaining 10 acres being that line that shows up here where this is the remaining acres here, this parking. But if you remember in the original project, they had earmarked 990 of these parking spaces for the apartment complex because they didn't have enough. This new project apparently is all 400 parking spaces within the project. So that seems to be material better. But we want to thank Catherine for helping with this. Yeah. Yeah, The new law that's going into effect shortly basically wipes out any CEQA challenges to a residential property. So what we did would not be able to happen if we were 6 months later. So we negotiated it down, and now we got this project, which appears to be much more in line with what the area is used to seeing, townhouse style with garages. My guess is they went to the garages because we brought up the business of the unbundled parking law, and the unbundled parking law does not apply if the parking is attached to the unit. So by having garages attached, you don't have to charge extra for the parking. It can be part of the rent. Otherwise, you had to charge extra for parking. So that could be one of the reasons why, but we're anxious to learn more about it, and hopefully down the road, we can invite Michelle Rubin to come and talk about the project. Yeah. We don't know yet. We just have this much of the proposal. It doesn't really, even if they're for rent to start with as apartments, they'll be able to do just like they did across the street and change the title and sell them as condos later. But we don't know. I don't know whether they intend to sell them or whether they intend to rent them first. Remember, the project across the street on Mission Grove was rented for 10 years, and then they sold them as condos. Because all the units now that are built almost entirely in Southern California are built to condo specifications so that they don't have to go through a big conversion process to convert apartments to condos. It's just a title change, and you can convert it. So that's an update on Kmart. We hope everybody's pleased with that. We think it's a big improvement over what we started with. Okay, now the chief. Everybody knows the chief. He's here. He's one of our first speakers a couple of years ago. And here's the chief earlier this morning when he was handing out, swearing in some new officers and handing out promotions today. I went down to that. It's a great thing to see these people get their badges and their families pin them on. And I think everybody should see that police officers like firemen have families too. And you see that on the stage when they come up with their kids and wives and mothers and so on, and it's a terrific thing. So with no further ado, here's the chief.
Good evening, everybody. Sorry, I'm going to put him on blast and embarrass him, but one of my best friends, the chief of San Bernardino PD, Darren Goodman's here. So I want to recognize him. He came to heckle me, so I thought I'd just throw the first shot at him. But so I thought we'd talk about relevant issues tonight. So what the most relevant issue is, I think, is probably 4th of July. And I think many of you probably saw the messaging we've tried very hard to do the last couple of weeks on our drone enforcement program. So I do have some numbers for you, fresh off the press. You know, I asked a lot of people throughout the community because depending on where you are in the city, it was the worst 4th of July ever, or it was the best 4th of July ever. What we've consistently heard, and I live up here, I live down the street. I was being cynical and I said, well, I'll go home in time to watch the Orange Crest show, you know. It's not a sanctioned one by the city, but there'll be one. But what we did hear is a lot less activity leading up to the 4th and a lot less activity after the 4th. And my humble opinion, I think, I felt the same way. I honestly felt like the 4th of July was just another 4th of July. I heard fireworks a lot, but I think this drone enforcement program, if it goes all the way through, it'll get better each year. What I mean by that is if these fines are actually enforced and paid, then we might see a difference next year. So this year, calls for service, we had 547 calls on the 4th of July, just related to fireworks. There were 470 in 2024, that's different. Last year was 477. And in 2023, there was 437. 311, everybody knows about 311. We're happy that you use 311. We had more calls this year. We had 455 this year. Last year, there was 307. and in 2023, there was only 160. The big difference was as far as fireworks citations, as you know, that was a $1,500 administrative fee. We wrote 66 citations this year, just throughout the weekend. And 50 of those were from the drones, which we were happy about with the limited amount of drones that we have. We have about 12 drones, but we could have used another 6 teams to really get some serious enforcement there. But just to compare you from last year, we wrote 24 citations. So almost triple the amount of citations. And I think the big difference we'll see is if we can make sure that is enforced all the way through. There were some ideas that were thrown out there where maybe even getting it attached to your utility bill if you don't pay the fine. I've heard about the franchise tax board being involved to recover the money, but we'll see. But all in all, and I'll take questions at the end if you have a different opinion, that's kind of the way I felt about 4th of July. So I love that Lewis came to our, Lewis and Brian are both on my advisory committee. I love that he came to our swearing and promotion and award ceremony today. But how great is that to see that many cops sworn in? And I remember talking to you guys probably about a year ago, and our staffing levels were still down. When we're fully staffed, we're 432 sworn police officers. Last year at this time, we were around 370, 376, I think it was, if I check my notes. And we're hovering around 410 right now. So we will be fully staffed this year. We currently have 22 police officers in our field training program, which means they've graduated the academy and they're riding with a field training officer. And we currently have 18 officers in the police academies, both here at Riverside Sheriff's and San Bernardino Sheriff's. So, but we always have to keep up with attrition. I know there's going to be guys retiring this year. We're going to lose people to injury throughout the year. But if all goes well, the numbers that we're seeing will be fully staffed by the end of the year, which is something we haven't seen in 20, 30 years. Along with that comes a lot of new guys, so I do have some concerns. We have a very new police force. So we really emphasize the fact on who are the guys that are training these officers. Our field training officer program are all handpicked. They have to test for it. We put a lot of emphasis on who's training our new officers to make sure we can provide the best product out there for you folks. Another thing I want to share with you is I've been on the job for 32 years. For 32 years, they've been telling me how we're going to get a new police headquarters. A new building's coming, right? We talked about it through all the years when I was an officer and sergeant and lieutenant, and then Measure Z passed in 2016, and there it is. There's our money allocated for the new building. Then we went through what we went through after that. That got set off to the side. So we finally pulled the trigger. It's never going to be a good time to spend that money on a new building. But if you've seen our building, it's over 60 years old. Some of you guys might remember the show Dragnet or Adam 12. It's kind of what we're looking at. One of the council members said he thought he was going into an episode of Dragnet when he came. Yeah, nothing wrong with that. It's just not quite as modern as we would like. And it's not necessarily a staffing requirement because there's not going to be many more cops that are there. It's just an old antiquated building where nothing works, and we spend almost $1 million every year just keeping the air conditioning on, the elevators working, and things like that. So we were very excited to see that. We will basically be taking the Orange Street station, tearing it down where we're at, and building a new one right there. So we're excited about that. We have to find a new place to live, and in 4 months, we don't know where that is yet. So if you guys have any building space you want to give to us, let us know. But yeah, we will have to relocate. It'll be about a 1.5 year build project. So we're excited about that. Yeah. Funny you mentioned, Brian, that's come up before. I always like to talk to you guys about legislation, right? I know a majority of the conversation we've had here in this room is legislation. And I remember this group in particular was way ahead of the game because you knew how to get to the portal in the Assembly and in the Senate when we're talking about certain bills. So we thought early on that once we got Prop 36 across the finish line, which we did, I'll talk about that in a second too, how that's working, that we thought maybe the momentum's changing. I hate when they say this term, the pendulum is swinging the other way, right? We won't have as much legislation issues as we've had in the past, like getting rid of police canines or getting rid of the ability for our officers to search somebody or ask to search somebody, or getting rid of them to be able to conduct a traffic stop for an equipment violation. All the stuff we thought was silly, those all kind of died. So we thought we were having a pretty good year until about 4 or 5 weeks ago. And now we're having a lot of legislation dealing with the federal administration, ICE, immigration, things like that, that are trying to get passed forward. But just a couple of highlights. AB 1331 was, this is real in its infancy stages, that they no longer want businesses or law enforcement to be able to access cameras from inside a business, which is absolutely ridiculous. I know, I see your faces. So it's in the early stages. We're looking at, hey, there needs to be carve-outs for us, law enforcement. So that's in the infancy stages. SB 805 deals with the face coverings. That's real early on because if the California state legislation wants to pass a bill that federal agents have to wear masks, it doesn't apply. It's a state law. So you're hearing that at the federal level, they're trying to pass the same legislation. So it's real early on about how we are going to deal with that as far as them wearing face coverings. And there's two sides of that story is yeah, we can't identify them. Nobody knows who they are, if they're legitimate, are they impersonating a police officer? And the other half of that is a lot of these ICE agents and federal agents get threatened by the cartel. So there's both sides you have to consider. Another concerning one was SB 634. That basically would have reversed, it's almost like a homeless Bill of Rights. It would reverse the Grants Pass decision, if you guys remember that, which says that cities can't make their own anti-camping ordinance to where we can enforce it. That was overturned with Grants Pass versus Oregon, and that would basically bring it back to where we were 5 years ago before. We can't have an anti-camping ordinance in the city. How are we going to remove certain people? That's being talked about in the very early stages. You guys know I'm on the executive board for California Police Chiefs, and we're fighting hard against that one as well. AB 992 was an educational requirement passed in 2020 that all officers should not only have a bachelor's degree, but they also should have a constitutional policing degree, which is a curriculum that they haven't even made up yet. But it was 72 units through a community college, which is, it's an AA degree, have both of those. So of course we fought against that. Talking to the legislation about that, they're like, do you even know what education we get in the police academy? Do you know what education folks out of the military get? So they've really amended that over and over to where it will no longer be, you have to have a bachelor's degree, but the equivalent to a certain amount of units, which we're trying to identify that number. But what we're concerned about is those military folks we like to hire. They get out of 4 years or 6 years in the military. Now you have to go get a bachelor's degree, and we need you now. So it just didn't make sense, and it looks like that's been watered down a lot where we're not really worried about it. And even if there will be some type of educational requirement, probably at least something between an AA and a BA, AA with other specialized training. But none of that would take effect until 2030. So they're still working it out. Me and Chief Goodman don't care. We'll be gone in 2030. So just kidding. So that was important to us. The one thing I would add, if you could pay attention to out of all these, are just kind of info early on, but we are looking at Senate Bill 274, and that deals with retention of the camera systems. How long can we keep information stored in our camera systems? Most agencies have 30 to 60 days. They're talking about wiping a lot of that out to where you have to get rid of that information, so we can't use it in criminal investigations after a certain amount of time. It's still early on with that, but that was one of, I could tell you, out of all these issues, would be to kind of watch SB 274. So let's go back to the good news, Prop 36. At least for us in law enforcement, it was a very useful tool for us because of the reasons. I think everybody is familiar with Prop 36. You know, we had multiple thefts occurring in our cities. We had multiple drug convictions or drug arrests in our cities that weren't going anywhere. And we got to the point as of a year or two ago where there's absolutely no consequences in the state of California for getting arrested multiple times for either stealing anything up to $950 or getting arrested 10 times in a row for fentanyl or heroin. So what that changed is after 2 misdemeanor convictions of a theft, any theft you commit after that would be a felony, which helps us because I was getting tired of, and I would tell this to all of my officers, is I would educate them on this, that it's frustrating if some guy's working downtown, one of my officers, and he arrests a guy for burglarizing his business. The first thing the owner says is, how in the hell is this guy arrested again? Well, we just arrested him on Monday. Did he get in now? And we have to educate them on this is the way the law is. So this is a tool that'll help us to prevent some of those thefts where people are going into Home Depot with a calculator and taking as much up to $950 and walking out. As far as the narcotics related offenses, this targets all the hard narcotics, cocaine, methamphetamine, heroin, fentanyl, which in years past before Prop 47 used to be a felony. That changed after Prop 47, where now simple possession is a misdemeanor. So we got to a point where I can tell you and I probably shared this one with you years ago, when I was working patrol, if I pulled you over on the street and you had a half ounce of cocaine on you, you would go to jail. You go to jail for a few days. You'd have an option to either go to drug court or do your time in jail, or at least get out with felony probation search terms. And we come so far to where if you listen about fentanyl and the problems with fentanyl, everybody knows that one pill badly pressed can kill you. About a year ago, our officers pulled over a guy with 1,000 of them and they had to site release him. So we went from this to that. We had to find some middle ground. So Prop 36, what they've done is just like with the theft, if you have 2 misdemeanor or 2 convictions for the hard drugs, the third one is now a felony. Now, the thing that they threw in there, because we're always seeking people to get better, it's for rehab, that there's a rehabilitation felony is what they're calling it, to where if you actually put yourself in rehab and get through it, the charge will be dropped. This is something we've had in the past. And it's like I said, Prop 36 is great, but we're basically almost getting back stuff we had for years that we lost 10 years ago because we're in the situation that we're in now. The one thing for us and that's different is we have a very specific Riverside County problem with Prop 36, and that is jail space, right? So we can't really see the effects on a daily basis. If I'm still making the same arrest, yeah, I'm charging you with a felony, but it's a nonviolent felony, so you're not going to stay in county jail. Now, if you look across the state of California, I can look at my neighbors, my buddy Darren in San Bernardino County, they got plenty of space, plenty of bed space. You go to Orange County, plenty of bed space. San Diego, no space. LA, no space. You go up and down the state, it's different in every jurisdiction. So the problem that we're facing is what we're going to try to fight with this year is they need the people that are in county jails. There's some right down at Robert Presley Detention Center that have been there for 10 years in county jail. They should not be there for that long. The jails aren't suited to keep people there for 10 years. Our state prison systems have plenty of room. And I'll dispel a myth. There's not one person in state prison for a nonviolent felony. I want to make sure everybody understands that. In fact, I can tell you most of the jails in Riverside County, there's not many people in county jail right now for a nonviolent felon. It started off with releasing nonviolent felons, and what the sheriff has to do now is basically release the least violent felon on a daily basis. And that's about 50 people a day throughout the county. So what our goal is to do moving forward is, I remember me and the sheriff did a panel thing a couple months back, and I was asking him about just Presley, downtown Riverside. There's 5 jails in Riverside County. I said, hey, I forgot, how many beds do you have? He goes, 700. Right now we keep around 685 in there, which is full for room for anything that happens today. I said, okay, how many of those guys go to state prison every week? Because you see big buses, the jail buses, they're taking folks from county jail to state prison. And back in the day, Thursday was the transportation day. And they would take anywhere from 100 to 200 people to state prison, wherever they had to go on a weekly basis. For the last several years, it's been around 15 to 20 that are getting released to state prison. So I thought, I'm going to call my friend he's retired now, but he was the warden at Chino prison. So I said, hey, how many beds do you guys have in Chino? I forgot. He goes, 6,000. I go, how many prisoners do you have? He said, 2,200. So the light bulb goes on. That's just Chino, right? So I don't know what the rest of California has, but this is our focus moving forward is, hey, we need to figure out a way to undo AB 109 is the one that was the realignment bill that was passed to try to help us with this overcrowding problem, at least for the cities or the counties that have the overcrowding problem. And I know the sheriff's doing his own battle with, he has an Indio jail that has 1,700 beds in it, and he's occupying 340 of them because there's one floor that's open and the rest of the three, they don't have the funding for the jail. So something like that opening would help us tremendously at the downtown Riverside one or Banning or Marietta, wherever it would be to get jail space, open it up for us. And that's when we could really see the rewards, if you would, for Prop 36. Briefly talk about ICE, which I seem to talk about all the time. They were in town today. If you've watched social media, they were in Casablanca. We don't have any jurisdiction over the federal government as your local police department. So when they were there today, I got a call from a few council members and some other county supervisors and stuff like that are asking about it. I was like, I don't know, but I will check. So they were here a couple weeks ago serving felony criminal warrants, which they have the right to do that. They call into dispatch, tell us we're going to be at these locations, and they don't need any assistance, just letting you know we're here. In light of recent events, I think they've changed their standard operating procedures because I don't know for sure who it was, ICE, Border Patrol, who was there today, but they did not notify us they were coming. So we don't, like I said, when people ask us, we're like, I don't know, I could find out afterward maybe, but they don't have to tell us. We don't. So I try to emphasize the fact to community, I did in the certain parts of our community, I go, yeah, I can't promise you anything, but right now they're giving us a heads up, they're coming in. I'm not going to ever tell that to people. I don't want to jeopardize the safety of the agents, but they haven't done sweeps at Home Depot and stuff like that you're seeing on the news. Well, I go, I can't promise what's going to happen, but that's happening. So like I said, we walk that fine line of wanting to deliver the message to our community, but at the same time, part of the messaging is we don't have the jurisdiction, and they're the federal government. So I don't know what's going to happen. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. No, not since that, because Riverside technically is not a sanctuary city. But I know what you say about California being, it's a sanctuary state. So what changed for us tremendously was Senate Bill 54, SB 54, which says, yeah, we can't ask, we don't, so, and we've been that way since, gosh, forever. We don't ask, we just arrest you for the crime, and then we book you into jail, and what happens, happens. So nothing really changed for us. We have a wonderful foreign nationals policy in place already that we adhere to. So, but that was the big thing that changed it on the way we deal with immigrants. I know me, and I can speak for Chief Goodman too, when we first started, if they were undocumented, we would book them into jail and write, remember, INS, and then they did their thing, and we didn't know what happened. Correct. Which I think even the sheriffs have kind of asked for that, because it makes it easier on local law enforcement to know or to help out, because it's hard for us to go in front of our community and say, because we're the peacekeepers, we're the ones that take care of your city, but it's just crazy times. We've never dealt with something like this. The only certain thing I know is it's uncertain. And then lastly, I just want to touch on protests. We have protests in Riverside, if not every day, every weekend. We did have a couple large ones a couple weeks ago. Different agencies have different styles on how they police protests. We're more of get a bunch of cops out there, put them in the shadows, let them exercise their First Amendment rights. If we have an antagonist or a troublemaker, send a team in, extract that person, and let them finish doing their job. But when it's a large-scale protest, we have to make a lot of decisions on, do we need to shut down streets? I know if you remember 2020, we had 10,000 downtown, but they were angry at us, the cops, right? This is George Floyd stuff. So we know we're probably gonna need to shut down entire streets. Say, hey, you can come in these streets right here and yell at us, and we'll put barricades up. And the one last week, everybody saw the lady got run over by a vehicle. And that was one where it was hard for us. We just monitored with all the outside police, whether it's motors or all the other cops we had out there to try to keep them out of harm's way. But if you have 8,000 people taking over city streets until an incident happens to where we can declare it an unlawful protest, which that was enough to do that, we're going to try to monitor it as best we can. We were very aware that there were kindergarten kids, lots of families in that crowd, but it's always the same. After a certain amount of time, they did their protest, they leave, and the rioters stay and try to cause destruction, and we deal with that. So he got arrested the next day. Yeah, I don't know where it's at in the judicial process, but they filed attempted murder on him. So we also use a lot of undercover cops in the protest. That's where we get most of it. We use drones. It's phenomenal. I was at the command post that night watching, just amazes me how far we've come, where I got 6 screens this size watching every single part of the protest and being able to respond where we need to respond in real time. You know, where, like I said, when I first started, we got stuck on the corner of walk and don't walk. And it's like, you're there the whole night, man. You know, unless somebody yells for help, you're stuck. So it's nice to have that technology, working with our undercovers that work in there and listen. Our intel folks monitor all the social media, regular web, dark web, to try to get numbers and try to give us a brief on what the intelligence says going into it. So we have a pretty good idea what we're going to deal with that night. But at the very end of it, you're never going to know. Yes, sir.
When you decide to go this route, use the technology, I'm assuming it's GPS mapping that you're overlaying and getting addresses. So it seems as if the violating party is actually a property rather than an individual.
Correct.
So do you have history of other agencies and other municipalities successfully using these and actually taking it through prosecution? And how many do you win or lose before?
We're still waiting to see here in Riverside, but we did reach out to a couple of, forgive me, I don't remember the exact cities in California, and we call it a host ordinance, meaning we're going after the host, right? You know, some of you guys might have had college kids that rented out houses and had raging parties and stuff like that. We would go right after the owner of the house. So kind of the same methodology is trying to go after the owner of the house, whether you plead ignorance or not. But that remains to be seen as far as how far can we go to make them pay. You remember the red light cameras? Those came and went because it was so hard. Everybody was suing back because you can never prove, well, your picture could be that big on the screen. We know it's you. But I didn't sign the ticket that said not admitting guilt, promising to appear, like you would get from a motor officer. So those kind of went away. But yeah, I don't know, but we did reach out to a couple of the agencies that use the host ordinance, and that's what gave us the idea. And we really got hot and heavy on it after the Hawarden fire. And then I just found out a recent fire, I think it was the Laguna Beach one, 13-year-old kid was arrested for fireworks. And then there was other one in Pedley, which we confirmed was also fireworks. So yes, sir. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I agree. And I want you to go to council tonight. I asked for more drones. I think they will. We actually probably have 20 altogether because we use them in patrol at night, middle of the night, you need a surveillance. I think everybody enjoys the drones. There's only one group of people who do not like drones. Those are my helicopter pilots. They're afraid they're going to take them out of a job someday. I doubt it, but yes, sir.
Allowed the issuance of, I think for somewhere between 45 and 50,000 CCWs now. Almost 60. And you've got a lot of young new officers coming on the force. What is the department's policy? Because the sheriff requires CCW holders to notify when they're in contact with police officers other than the social worker, to notify the officers when they are carrying a firearm. What is the department, your guidance, what is the policy for the officers in terms of how they engage with CCW holders in terms of the actual firearm itself? Are they pulling the person out of vehicles? Are they actually physically removing the firearm? What is the policy?
It depends on the nature of the stop, but it's the exact same as the sheriff. We're asking you to notify if you get pulled over by law enforcement or they see you. If you see a cop walking down the street, hey, how you doing? By the way, I got a gun. No, you don't need to do that. But if it's a traffic stop or something like that, we want you to say that first, just so you know. And then most of the time they'll say, okay, great. Can I see your ID and your CCW, your paperwork to do that? And they'll make sure it's all valid. And crazy, we haven't seen a lot of issues with that. And I know our gun seizures in 2020, we went from 300 to 600 gun seizures. To 2022 and 23, we had 1,000 we were taken off the street. Those numbers have almost been cut in half since then. So there's no rhyme or reason. I don't know, but that's pretty much our protocol. Please identify, tell the officer you have it, and they'll check you out. But it's not necessarily going to pull you out, prone you out, and search you on the ground or anything like that. Yes, sir. We don't. Other than them asking for backup sometimes, we don't issue the same type of citations. They're civil, as you know, but unless they ask for backup, and there was a time where some of them ride with our public safety engagement team. They work side by side, but they do all the issuing of those type of citations. Questions? Yeah, I'm done with my spiel, so yes, ma'am. Yes.
And you are entitled to a site for a police station on the March
Yes.
JTA land. And congratulations on building the Orange Street Station. And congratulations on
Can I keep this? Oh, thank you.
I think
Agree.
You could at least take the land now and build and develop it later as we get more. So I hope we have this.
I always like coming to this group. I'm getting drones. I'm getting a new police station. You do. And this has never really been off the table, other than when the land was going to sunset, right? We knew that, hey, how much are we getting? And I know the councilman at the time was talking about maybe a joint public safety center with us and the Chippies. Man, they have a station in our city, which is worse than my Orange Street station. So we thought, so we're exploring all those ideas. I will tell you this, when we first decentralized 20 years ago and went to the neighborhood policing forum, where we have 4 districts basically, with an area commander over each one of them, like you saw Lieutenant Merrill. The thought being that we always want to plan about 50 years ahead. What are we going to look like? We're not going to have 432 officers. We're going to have 600 officers at least. I could use 600 now. honestly, and keep them busy. But when we decentralized, we wanted one freestanding police station in all 4 areas. I've told this to the council. I'm going to say it again. We have one at Orange Street. Now we have the new station. That's North Neighborhood Policing Center. We have Magnolia, where all of our detectives are at right now. That's West. Central is where our patrol division is, Lincoln and Adams, right? We don't have anything up the hill. So if we're envisioning really planning out our future 30, 50 years, we should have 4 freestanding police stations with a patrol component out of all 4. Look at how LA is. You got Rampart, Newton, Southwest, Southeast, and they all are mini police stations. And that's how we kind of envision moving forward. So this is never going to be off the table for me. I hope we keep going forward. Yes. Yes, sir.
There are times I don't think they drive down, but is it really as bad as people going out there?
We haven't had many calls for service there, like a spike in that recently. I will say the Magnolia corridor that we call, which encompasses them all. So if you can just imagine Van Buren, I would actually go to Jackson Street on Magnolia all the way to La Sierra. Has probably been the worst area in our city for homeless, mental illness, drug activity. And we've done several operations up and down that as much as we possibly can do, and we'll continue to do that. It's just that area. Why is it that way, do you guys think? All the county facilities that we send our mentally ill to, 5150s, our sobering center, mental crisis center is off of County Farm Road in Tyler. I'm not blaming the county for anything. I'm just saying, if they can't, they're having problems holding folks into those. We put them in there for treatment. They release them in a day or 2 later, and they go to the mall, or they go up and down Magnolia. So we've had a lot of help from the sheriff too. He's actually placed deputies to work just that street. We had to show them, we had 900 and something calls in 1 year on that street because all the stuff that's going on there. So it's a never ending battle. We'll never stop paying attention to what we're dealing with on the Magnolia corridor, especially because we know they want to do some more development there as well. Yes. Thanks, Miles. I'll be there too, that meeting, I know, so.
Any other last questions for the chief here?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
My next question is about, do you think that more of a presence of ICE in our community? And also, since they don't have to tell you, then some of the raids, like Home Depot situations, they're not that many Home Depots.
Yeah.
So we're just out. Do you see that kind of force?
That's a great question. And like I said earlier, the only certain thing I'm certain about is uncertainty. Because, you know, honestly, I had some talking points that I brought you tonight. I had to scratch out a few of them from what happened today. I didn't know. So I don't know what it is, but I just think, you know, you look at what happened and when you think, man, there's lawsuits and injunctions from LA, and then they double down and they're in MacArthur Park over the weekend. So if you think you know, you just don't. Usually we try to send all of our problems to LA if they come here. We don't feel the same effect. I'm just kidding, but we don't feel the exact same effects in the Inland Empire as a whole between both counties as you do see in LA. But I'm sorry, I couldn't even guess right now how that's going to unfold. So I know if you had your, yes, ma'am. Actually, it's been steady, about the same, the gang activity. We have a pretty, I would say, aggressive gang unit that not just on the street level, but the way you really get to gangs is to be able to work up cases and incarcerate them to where they're gone for a while. It's funny you mentioned that if you guys heard the tennis shoes over, that's an old school. When I was first on it, that's where they were selling dope. You know, if you knew that's where they hung the shoes over, you go in there and buy dope. But to answer your question about the gang activity, we still have it, but I haven't seen an uptick in gang activity. In fact, crime overall in our city has gone down in every category. So I don't want to jinx myself. I don't know if that's going to change the rest of the year, but I was actually shocked to hear that the property crimes actually went down, which this is what we were complaining about with Prop 36, is the petty thefts and the car burglaries and burglaries in general. And we've seen a slight decrease in those as well. So, yeah, that's a never-ending battle. Yeah. Hi, Sharon. We saw it go down there about 3 months ago significantly because we did a major operation in there where we had a high police presence over and over and over again. And then once we pulled them from there, we saw an uptick in it again. So it's one of those ones where, and I get it, people talk, whether it's homeless, drug activity, or theft, which are all kind of involved in Prop 36. The only way we really see a significant difference if you put cops out there and displace them, whether it's jail or getting them to treatment or whatever. But it's a tough, never-ending battle. So we try to throw resources at it wherever we can go, because we'll hit the Magnolia Quarter this week, and then next week we need to go downtown. They're complaining about it downtown. We go there and, you know, I hate using that term, whack-a-mole, but going to different parts of the city and trying to address these problems. So, and I hate to say this too, it's like we harp on this a lot, that maybe if some legislation changed, it would help us do our job, but that's the reality of it. So, yes, ma'am. We do, but it's not as significant as it could be because we focus so much of our efforts on mental wellness or drug-related substance abuse problems, which could lead to everything else. But all of our specialized teams, our CBAT team, our PSET team, every other acronym team that we have that specialize, they don't handle radio calls, they deal with calls about mentally ill or homeless, and they're all specially trained on how to deal with all those symptoms, whether it's dementia, Alzheimer's, or under the influence of certain type of medication. And our response has changed over the years, where it would be if a guy's acting whacked out, you would see a dog pile of cops throw him down on the ground. And there's no rush for that anymore. We need to sit back, reevaluate, ask about medication, ask any history, things like before we engage anybody. So we do have training for officers in all those areas, but it probably not as significant as it could be with like dementia, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, things like that.
Okay, let's thank the chief for being here.
Thank you, folks. Thank you, sir.
No, that's your pen. You take it. Okay, one last thing that I wanted to cover is Erin Snyder. Most of you don't know who she is. She's a community volunteer and activist in Riverside. Brian and I met her a couple of years ago when we first started going to NBT meetings and RNP, and she was terrific in teaching us what was going on with the city council. She's been representing the north side for years and trying to get things done. And she's come down with a very life-threatening illness. So I wanted to mention it, that our hearts and prayers go out to her and her family. She's worked for over 20 years, volunteering and working in the conservation area and teaching kids and everyone. This is a picture of her teaching a class with Habitat of Humanity to people that were first-time home buyers and how to maintain the budget and so on, and to maintain, to continue to be homeowners. So I just wanted to reach out and mention that. A couple of you certainly know Duffy and Sharon are familiar with Erin. So our prayers and thoughts go out to her with her family as they deal with this life-threatening illness. So with that, I don't think, here's our 63rd Assembly District. We will be having the 2 candidates. We're trying to get them the finalist in August. For our meeting, we have gotten a response from Chris Schultz. If anyone knows Natasha, we have reached out to her several times to try to get her to come. In August, it'll be 2 weeks before the election. So if you know her campaign, please try to get her to acknowledge and that she will come. The date of the meeting of that one is I believe it's August 9th. Actually, 13th. August 13th. And the election is the 26th, so almost 2 weeks later. So it's perfect timing. We've invited them to come back for that. So any other questions or comments before we close the meeting? Thanks, everyone, for coming. Great turnout. Terrific seeing everybody. Yes. Do we have a what, startup date? No. They're still going through the plans and approval process, so my guess it'll be quite some time before they get to that point. So, but we'll keep you posted on that on the website and at the meetings. So, on what's happening. Okay, thank you, folks. Drive safe home.